Welcome. Tonight is our workshop night, and if you can't tell, we're doing flower photography tonight. Hopefully you brought your cameras and something to light the pictures with. We do have some lights, but they're, probably not as bright as you might like. But if you have a tripod, that doesn't matter. You can have as long of an exposure as you need for it to be as bright as you want. Well, tonight we have I have a little presentation about flower photography just to help you guys out a little. But before that, we do have photo sharing for those of you who sent in pictures. There weren't very many, but that's okay. That just means that we'll get to taking pictures more quickly. This Thursday, we are doing our editing discussion group at Panera at 6 o'clock. So if you're interested in that, come on down to Panera, you'll see us, eat some nice food, and we'll talk about whatever your editing questions are. And if nobody has any questions, then I always have something prepared to show you. So that will be happening this Thursday. Then on Sunday, it's the beginning of June, June 1st. And so we will be having our breakfast discussion group at the Morning Griddle Cafe at 9 o'clock. And Andrew is in charge of that. If you are planning on going, please let him know so that he can make sure there's enough seats at the table for you. Okay, next month, we have on June 17th is our end of the year competition and celebration. We'll have some snacks and we will vote on the best of the best, all of the first places. We will vote on each level's first places and have our best of the best winners. Hopefully we'll have a slideshow put together of our activities over the year, and so that'll be fun to look at some of our memories and such. Then on June 24th, we're having a portrait photography workshop, and we have some models that are scheduled to come in and model for us. We'll have some backdrops set up and lighting and stuff like that. So you can practice posing, research on how to pose. Do you know what the variety of people right now?
I know who's done, and I know that there are other people who would like to, but it's like, I'll let you know.
Right.
One family with some young dancers and someone my age who's a hula dancer, and her husband who's a ukulele player.
Oh, cool.
And someone who's a track and also does military JROTC, a couple of families. And who else? I mean, like with the youngster and the mom, yeah. Cool.
So there's a big variety of people to learn to take pictures of. It's always fun to work with people, and this will improve your skills in that way. And then on the 28th, we are going to the Peterson Museum in LACMA for our field trip. So that should be a lot of fun. The Peterson Museum has a lot of great automobiles. And then LACMA, there's the art inside and the statues, the facility itself. And then the grounds are interesting. That's where all of those lampposts are set up that you've seen pictures. What?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a fun place to visit, and we will be doing that at the end of June. So that's what's coming up in the next month. The S4C International Exhibition closes on May 31st, and so those of you who are PSA members, the categories are color open, animals, and then monochrome, nature general, nature wildlife, and photojournalism general. So I think that's it. There's no human interest.
I don't know.
I
Forgot the date.
So check that out. I have included that in the email, the link to the exhibition entry. 6, okay. And so check that out. That's always a fun way to help S4C be self-funding. We'll put it that way. It helps.
participate in both.
Yes, it helps our clubs, it helps all the Southern California clubs be able to participate without having to pay anything. So we encourage our members who are PSA members to participate in that. Okay, so now is our photo sharing. Thank you to everyone who sent in photos. There were just a few of you. Can someone get the lights? Alex, if you can get the ones at the back. You could just leave on one of them for now. The farthest back one. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Great. Excuse me. No problem. Okay, so we have Fred. Where are you?
Go on, Fred.
Feel free to stay up here by the thing. Yeah. Okay.
I thought this is a low-level flying on the way home from low-level flying, and it looks like we've got an up periscope underneath it. I think it's a degree. It's interesting. It's Raven on the Yucca at Joshua at Prime Desert Woodland the other day. One of my Willow Springs trips. But it was just a track day, so these are supposedly just guys on their street bikes.
Okay.
That was at the zoo when we all went, and I had 6 of them standing up, but I like to at least turned out for themselves.
Great.
And Friday I went for a ride out Caliente, and that's a train coming into the tunnel near Caliente, so it's going toward Bakersfield. And I followed another train from just before the Tehachapi Loop all the way through Mojave, and then went home.
There you go. Okay, Andrew.
It's a trip I took up to Mount Shasta, and was the Bernie Falls.
Yeah, the MacArthur Verde Falls.
McCarthy. Is that?
Is it?
Yes. I went up with another photo group and we chased all around. This is one of our stops. I just had a really good time. Loved the rainbow there and played with the long shutter speed blue water. Where's Mount Shasta? Way, way, way up north.
It's up north of Redding. Sacramento, Redding, Mount Shasta.
Oh, good stuff. Okay. This was this weekend. There were lots of horses in action. This was the mounted shooting event on Sunday. Just one of the pictures I took. Took a lot of them, saw some familiar faces out there. Had a really good time. And then this was yesterday at the roping event. Also had a good time with that. Lots of action there. This was on the way up to the Mount Shasta area. I stopped in Chico for the night and drove out to the Sacramento River Wildlife Preserve. And as I was driving out, I know you find this hard to believe, but low-flying aircraft caught my attention. And so I stopped to play with the crop duster, and he could see me sitting there with my camera. So we hung out together and I got some good shots.
Oh,
And then this is part of the Santa Cruz Valley Photography Association Challenge. He had us do 24 frames in May where we actually shot a roll of film. And I got my scans back today. This is one of my shot of an iris out in my front flower bed. This is on Tri-X. It's nice to shoot film again. For anybody who's shooting film right now, Richard Photo Lab has a special going $5 to develop a roll film.
pretty good. Okay, John, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, this one is it's from the Nellis Air Show. This is a commemorative Air Force B-25 that was flying around as part of their little like a war show that they did.
Here's what I found.
Apparently Alexa wants to get in on this. This one here is a what is it called? A Texan, and this is also commemorative Air Force. I like the way as he was coming in, it kind of looked like he was coming in for an attack. So I was really happy with the way the composition turned out on this one. And then you've probably seen these guys before. The Thunderbirds doing their 4-ship Delta, but I love the fact that I got the mountain range in the background and the little bit backlit too, which was kind of cool. This is from the Huntington Beach Open that I went to a couple of weeks back. And this is Jaden Whitmarsh. Some of you old volleyball fans might remember Mike Whitmarsh, who used to be, one of the major players in the game. This is his daughter. Mike passed away years ago, but Jaden is in her mid-20s, I think. She's recently out of college and kind of an up-and-coming star. And then Cody Caldwell is this guy. He's not one of the top players, but they tend to do fairly well. But I just love this dig, the way he got his fist underneath that, and it's just a pretty cool moment. I think that's it.
Yep. Okay. There were only 4 of us, so here are mine. This was from our field trip to the zoo. I did not do much except bring down the shadows and the background just kind of went dark. So that was very nice. The snake from the zoo. I love the colors of and the way the coils were, so thought I would include it. And then Angela, she did a little tumbling run for us across the grass. She was having fun.
Looks painful.
I know, right? She was like, she did like 3 or 4 of these. It was pretty funny. And then this was from Saturday. I mean Sunday. With the mounted shooters. They're always so much fun to take photos of. You can get I really like this one, the steam is coming, or the smoke is coming out from the side too, with the blast. So
They love us being.
Huh?
They love us being.
Yeah. Well, you just can't, you have to pick your locations, I guess. I like this one because of the balloon stuff over here. It had just popped or something, so it was right there. And that's it. So, thank you all. I'm gonna switch to. Let me close that one. There we go. Now, I did this presentation for the club in like 2019, but a lot of you are new, weren't here then and such. So I figured I'd just pump it up a little and do it again. So I added a few things, took some things out, updated some of the pictures. Anyways, this will just give you some things to think about when you're taking pictures this evening. Flower photography is really about creativity, finding new ways to get people to look at a flower. I mean, we look at flowers all the time, we see them, they're like, yeah, that's a nice flower. But if you can find new ways to capture them that are interesting, that's what makes your flower photo special, award-winning, if you will. The main types of plants that you can take pictures of, wildflowers, which we are pretty much done with that season, unless you go up north. Botanical gardens, of which there are many, your local nursery like Home Depot or Lowe's, or your landscaping or at a park or in your yard, someone else's yard, as long as you get permission. With cut flowers, you do have more control. Yes.
Speaking of getting permission, the nurseries and stuff, have you gone into a nursery with a camera and they're okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've never had anybody say, don't do that. So, anyways, with cut flowers, you have more control over the pose, the background, the lighting. You can turn them into still lifes with other objects. And you can it's easier to do a macro if you have a cut flower because it's not outside waving in the wind and all of that. So cut flowers are easier to work with, but sometimes, you don't get that open air feeling of the wildflowers and such. Some examples, these are outside. The first one was a weed in my front yard that patch of sunlight was coming behind it, so it just made it really nice. Again, outside. Some lilacs inside. This little thing is back there somewhere. It's just 3 little vases. It's kind of fun. It's a fun little still life setup. This was at Home Depot. And I just kind of darkened down and put a different texture on the background so that it wouldn't be super obvious that it was Home Depot. But, that way I didn't have to buy a bunch of poppies. Still life. This was at the zoo. Cut flower. The lighting is from my sliding glass door. Macro with poppy. Subcategories, macros, seagull flowers, groupings. You can change your focus. You can have the entire flower in focus. You can have a point focus with f2.8, somewhere in between if you want more in focus, but not the background, a different variety. I love having a tiny part in focus and then the rest out of focus. That's, and then there's judges that are like, why would you do that? You need the whole thing in focus, but I like just having one specific part in focus. So that's my thing. Lighting styles, you can backlight, side light, front lit, bright, dark, soft, hard light, early morning, sunset. The variety of light is endless. The best light is soft light in general for flowers, but sometimes a different effect is very nice as well. It's just, based on your artistic vision. You can use leading lines, use a stem, use leaves, the petal curves to guide the viewer's eye to the center of the flower or along the curve of the flower. You can use creative effects like water drops, which we have a couple little spray bottles back there, smoke, which we also have, but we're going to use very sparingly because we don't want the smoke alarm to go off. Extreme macro, where you could just get into the pistils in the center, or one pistil. Reflections, we do have a mirror back there and a couple of black plexiglass squares that you can put the flower on and have it reflected on the surface. I've been playing with paint swirls in water, which we're not going to do tonight because it's very messy, but I will show you some of the pictures and it's very fun to play with. You can turn your flower photography into still life by adding a pair of scissors and gardening gloves, or adding some vintage items with the, I have some flowers, some tulips on top of a scale. And it's very pretty. So there's a variety of things you can do to turn your flowers into a still life. And that's really fun. And here's some examples of that. This is with everything blurry except the very tip of this flower that hadn't opened yet for the day. Blurry background. And this is, this is because the background is so far away. It was probably like F8 or somewhere in there. This is some of that paint in water spilling over the flower. Just the front of the flower. When you're do a flower head on, that's the easiest way to get it all in focus. So, and then the leaves behind it are blurry. This was in full sun, but poppies do really nicely with full sun because then you can see the shapes of each petal and the lines of the petals and stuff. And so they're very good for full sun. The effect this is with cropping of the way I cropped it. And it's very macro because this orchid is pretty tiny. And we do have orchids here tonight, so you can play with that. Backlit, nice backlit image. And using the foreground, having the blurry foreground and background really creates a nice effect, because then just that one subject that you're trying to get in focus is the only thing that's in focus. Everything else is really soft. More orchids. This is a color theory with having the yellows with the blues in the background. So it creates a nice color theory composition. Peony from the side. This orchid hadn't opened all the way, but with the nice black background, it really stands out nicely. This is another one where just one or two little details are in focus. This is low key. It just, I don't know, I really liked it that way. There's another one in here that's very high key, but not sure where it's at. This is direct sunlight. You can tell because the shadows are very crisp. But again, if you darken that down and lighten your shadows, you can have a really nice image without it being too blown out from the sun and stuff. This was on a very foggy, misty kind of day, so the light was very soft. This is some of the flowers on the scale with the scissors. Those scissors are back there, but you can't use them to cut because my husband ruined them, but they're still nice to take a picture with. He was trying to cut metal with metal. Sunset. I used a flash to get the sunflowers not in silhouette, and then exposed for the sky, and got a really nice flower to
It
feel.
looks like blue hour, kind of like our challenge. Huh?
Yes. Well, it's kind of sunsetty and blue hour, but yes, it's in the getting into blue hour. And these were some more sunflowers in the late evening. The swirl effect was in Photoshop. Using your creativity. Try and figure out what you want to do with the flowers. Make a plan when you know, because every flower is different. You might want to try different things. You might want certain flowers for certain things. And so that helps you decide what kind of flower you want and the kind of lighting that you're going to want and all of those sorts of things. Use light modifiers to soften your light or to change the light source If you want to bring it in from back or the front, light modifiers are really helpful for that, to diffuse your light, or to block it. Because oftentimes if you're in the sun, well, we'll talk about it. But use a tripod to get a sharp image with a longer exposure and smaller aperture if you're wanting to get more depth of field. That's why I asked you to bring tripods tonight, because most of our lighting, if you didn't bring a flash, is not going to be bright enough unless you have a longer exposure. So that's why we asked you to bring a tripod. Change your angle. Do your flowers from above, from the side, from below. I like putting my camera on the ground facing up, and then you get the bottoms of the poppies or the what's the yellow ones? Anyways, starts with the C. Anyways, they look really nice from the bottom. Mojave has vast fields of them some years, and you can get a really nice bottom view. Huh? No, because those are really short. No. Yeah, yes, no, coreopsis. Yes, that's, yeah. They're about this tall, and there's just like whole fields of yellow flowers. And I've usually seen them up by Mojave usually. Anyways, so it's fun to get those from below, because you get the clouds in the sky and the flowers. Macro and from a distance. There's so much variety that you can do with flower photography. Any lens will work, because they all have different effects. So depending on what you want to do with your flower photography, you could use a wide angle. If you want the big picture, you'll get more of your surroundings. You can get more details of the whole flower. It's good for a grouping of flowers, like a bouquet and things like that. Telephoto, that's obviously for more close up. Because I like using a telephoto a lot when I'm out doing wildflowers, because it blurs the background really nicely and you can get in pretty close to the flowers. So it's sort of like a long distance macro. It has less depth of field, but so you'll have softer backgrounds, and it does work for groupings of flowers if you're far enough away. Macro lens is great for flower details like petals, the stamen, the underside of a flower. If you're doing it with bugs, or if you're doing water drop reflections, those sorts of things, macro lenses are great. And if you use your macro lens on a crop sensor, it becomes 1.6 better, closer in. So think about that, because that's, I hadn't really ever thought about that, but it's true. So these are some different examples from the top, from the side with water drops, from the side or underneath, from a close-up of a macro of a poppy with the bright sunlight, but it just shows so much detail. I love that. Detail of the center of this flower, whatever it is, my brain. Excuse me? It's not a poppy, it's the other kind. Not that one either. Anyways, even down to dandelion seeds. I included this because I just did like a couple weeks ago and it was really fun. But we're not doing that tonight either. That's another session. Yes. A bouquet of lilacs. These are wildflowers. This is the coreopsis. And it was looking up a hill, so it was, and then in the distance behind that, there were some grasses, so it just made a really nice blurred background with two different colors. These little vases, they are back there, so they're really fun to use. There's like, I don't know, 8 of them, 8 different styles. toplet. These are, I think were from the pear tree in our front yard. Again, color, this was just sunlight, kind of in the middle of the day. It was towards the later in the afternoon. But I love that nature likes to put color composition naturally together, purple and yellow. Those are opposites on the color wheel, and it happens all the time out there. Here's that coreopsis picture looking from up below. That's what I was talking about. Macro. This was a twin seed, which conjoined twins. Again, with the soft lighting and the blur in the front and the back, just makes for a really nice image. And all that blur in the front is flowers closer to your camera. So I mean, it's really easy to do. You just have to get down on the ground, which I guess isn't as easy as it used to be.
Well, getting down really,
Getting back up, that's the struggle. That's right. This was the plum tree in my front yard. And this was, I softened it down with curves. Macro. Point focus. Lighting, the best lighting for flowers is soft light. If you're outdoor, you can use a diffuser. You can use the sun as backlight and it works really well. If you're in the morning or at golden hour, depending on if you're facing west or east, you can have the sun behind the flowers and have a really nice effect with the backlight. Morning for poppies is the best, which it's kind of late now for that. But as soon as they open, that's the best they're going to be all day, because they're going to get more desiccated and more windblown, tattered as the day goes on. So I like going out around 10 in the morning. Is really, they're open and it's still cool enough and the wind isn't going. Inside, you can use diffuse light to the side or back. Front light, you can use it, but it's not as dramatic or impactful. It's very bland. And if you want to have strong impact, it's helpful to have directional light coming from somewhere. The kind of light doesn't matter. Natural light, you can use a lamp, flashlight, LED light, speed light, whatever kind of light you have is the best light because it's the one that's there. It's like the camera. The best camera is the one you have. This was at a botanical garden and in a tree. What kind of flowers are these? Anyways, the light was dappling through the tree and just this little shaft of light was just hitting the center of this flower. And so it was like perfect. This was, why this one's in twice, I don't know. But my chandelier was the only light. The light over my dining room table. And you can see in the shadows down here, there's like three separate, you can kind of see these three separate lights in here because I guess there's more than three up there, but the top light made the tulips light, and then it gave nice shadows on the vases so that they stood out from each other. If this was front lit, the vases would not have nearly as nice of light on them. And so you have to think about all those sorts of things when you're doing the flower photography. This was backlit. It's great because you can see all the veins in the leaves of this sunflower. All the little prickly pieces. This was early morning, just after the sun came up. And so the sunlight was just backlighting these little tiny flowers in the meadow. This is front lit. See how kind of meh. It's not as interesting as some of the others. But I thought I'd put it in there just to kind of show you. I mean, it's not horrible, but think about if the light had been coming more from the side. The light is not from straight on, it's coming from kind of side and up. And look how every detail of those flower petals just really comes out. Backgrounds. In nature, it is best to have the background blurred by the lens, so there's less distraction. If you have a flower and there's a bunch of grass, leaves and bushes and whatever in the background, it's harder to keep your eye focused on the flower. So have your background at a distance to the flower if you have a smaller aperture. Or if you have a longer lens, I apparently can't spell. You can compress your background and then it'll be more blurry, or you can use a large aperture to have your background more blurry. F2.8 up to even F5 really, you can have more of the flower in focus with still having a background that's maybe 2 feet away that's not blurry, that'll be blurred. And I mentioned this before, blurred foreground also adds great effect to frame your subject. In the studio, you could use a light or dark background to accentuate your subject. Light and airy with a white background, dark and moody with black. I like dark better, but both are beautiful. You can backlight with window light or diffused light. I also have a light panel back there that you can put a flower in front of and have it backlit. Some of the more translucent flowers will really show well with the backlight. And complementary colors work well. Red versus green, blue and orange, yellow and purple. I actually have some poster board over there with bright colors. You may not want to use it, but you can always try and see if you like that effect. A tripod helps you have a longer shutter speed in low light, indoors and out. And again, this is probably like F5, but see how the background flowers are blurred enough that your focus stays on that main subject flower. The side ones are in focus, but the front one is not. And so I probably should have made my aperture smaller to get everything in focus, because the background looks like it's far enough away that it would still have been blurred. So you have to think about flowers that aren't flat. You have to try and see what part of it you want to focus. This was some daisies in my kitchen. Yeah, I have a blue wall in my kitchen, so it worked well because they're complementary colors. Kind of blue and yellow are both primary colors, but they're on triangle of the color wheel. This is backlit, so you can see all the veins of the dead orchid flower. And it was on a white tile, so the reflection is there as well. The curves of the calla lily, there are some calla lilies back there, so enjoy. I love calla lilies. They have such nice leading lines through them. Obviously. Here's some more. And water drops. There's a couple of spray bottles back there. Spray to your heart's content and build up those water drops. Those are very fine mist sprayers. So the more you spray, the bigger the water drops will get. This is a different paint in water one that I did, just to kind of show you what's possible. I used 3 different colors of paint in this one. Post-processing. When you get your flower photos back in your computer, You can use Camera Raw, Lightroom, or whatever other editing program you use to make your basic adjustments to exposure, highlights and shadows, and white balance, and get rid of background distractions. You can't use flowers for nature photography, so we can remove all the distractions we want. But, you know, like say there's a stick or a light piece of grass or something back there that's pulling your eye, just get rid of those. You can use sharpening and clarity to bring out fine details like the petal veins or the pollen. Cropping can make a difference too. A lot, if you notice, a lot of my photos of the centers of flowers were square because it just very much leans itself towards that. Vertical flowers and then panoramic crops can change how you see, like the orchid that I did where it was panoramic. It just helps you see the flowers in a different way. You can play with presets if you have them for toning, black and white options, try sepia, that's always fun, or different black and white looks. You can add textures and overlays in Photoshop. And you can even take a picture of the flower itself blurred and then overlay it over the flower. So you have the color tones the same, but it just adds a little softness to the overall image. And people do that quite a lot. You can play with filters in Photoshop, Topaz, Exposure. There's all sorts of programs out there that will add different sort of artifacts to your photos, and that's fun to play with. You can use a matte look or have a strong black and white. It just depends on what your vision is for the photos. You can add a frame. You can select the flower and put it on a different layer and then add frames and strokes behind it. There, I have a couple of examples coming up. And add a texture and you have a beautiful fine art piece. So this is with a texture. This was the high key one I was talking about. But I also softened all of the edges really a lot. This was just a fun little overview of all of the pictures that I took of these lilacs. This is one where I took several different photos of the tulip with varying levels of being in focus and then overlaid them to get that final result. And this is a really crisp black and white of these roses. And that little jug thing is is back there. These are the same flowers. And a totally different effect. So it just depends on what you feel like doing with the flowers. Really, you can pretty much do whatever you want. This was an overlay that I had over this peony. This, I probably wouldn't do this frame now, but it's very effective. And I think that the flower itself has a bit of topaz work on it with adding some effects and stuff. This was with an overlay texture that I used. This was a fun little program that added little paint splotches, and thought it made for a nice little art piece. This is where one of them were with the stroke and then having some of the flower inside and some outside of the stroke. It makes a nice fun effect. And this was an interesting composite that I did. Yes, it's a Day of the Dead-esque. The flowers were kind of dying, so I figured it was appropriate. And again, with part of the flower inside and part of it outside the stroke. And that is it, people. So hopefully you've gotten some inspiration about what you want to try with the flowers. We have about an hour and 15 minutes, so have at it.